Hello everyone, HDA here. On this update, what I'm going to do is go over the JT Graphics parts that are available for the Katinga. First thing is, Jeff at JT Graphics has a new piece of photo etch for the Katinga, and this is for the engine grills. We'll go over that in this video. I believe this is $8 for this part. Some of the other parts that he has, and I didn't order them all, were resin parts for the model. One of the large parts is a new neck cast in resin with a back bulkhead for that. We'll go over that. Let's see what else we have in the box. We've got the disruptors, and here they are right here. We'll go over them and their placement, and this is the back parts for the shuttle bay with those disruptors for the shuttle bay. And then we have the manifolds, which are these parts right here as kit replacement parts, all cast in resin. And then we have the bridge, which to me was the most important item for replacement, because it is just totally done wrong in the AMT kit. So we'll look at that. That's in clear resin. And then we have the onion bulb front underneath the bridge, which I believe is a new part from JT Graphics, even though he still says bridge on the package, but it's actually the onion bulb section of the Ford command hull. So we'll go over those. Let me get those and the kit parts that they correspond to, so we can do a side-by-side comparison. Okay. Here we are. This is what you get in the kit. You get the one piece of paper brochure that shows photographs of the studio model, and on the back some instructions. Basically things you must know in relation to cleaning the resin parts with a pretty strong cleaner, and they suggest Ajax or Comet as recommended. Doing the normal cleanup that you would normally do on resin parts, with sanding seam issues on the resin parts, and making sure that you use CA to attach those into the model. And they also talk about, if the parts are warped, how to heat those parts up to adjust them and put them back in their proper shape when they're cool. And priming. Now, the Katinga Konus 1 replacement neck comes with 3 parts. It comes with the actual neck section itself. It comes with the replacement back bulkhead for that, and a detail part. Now, from looking at the studio model, I'll start off with that detail part. It goes right here, and it's a little, very, very small resin part. And hopefully my camera's focusing on that. I believe that part only existed on the Konus 1 model. Not on the regular Katinga from the motion picture. And its placement on the neck part goes right here. And then of course you also get the back bulkhead piece, replacement piece for the AMT. Now I'm going to compare these parts, and I'll start off with the neck, compare them to the model kit parts, and I'll start off with the neck. Now, I've been working on my Katinga, so my parts have got some primer and some modification for LED lighting. So I decided to go ahead and open up my other redundant kit, and from 1986, which is the same plastic, for part comparison on the side-by-side comparison. So I'm going to lay these right next to each other. Perhaps I think it would probably be best to set them on the brown table, and we can look at these side by side in terms of their detail. Obviously the resin part is slightly larger. Its detail is more crisp, just because it's a resin and not injected styrene, but there are some changes on the part dimensionally. Let me see if I can change the lighting some, where we can maybe see those a little bit better in terms of shadows. You can see that the pyramid is a little more narrow. It is taller. The change in profile from this section to this section on the pieces is different, and there's some molded details that are actually different on the sides of the pieces, as you can see here. So this is a much more detailed part on the top. The width of the neck, where it goes into the bridge section, is a little bit wider here. The relief in these areas, and I don't know if this is going to show up on camera, of the details right here are much stronger, and they're also tapered where they're not. They're straight on the kit part, and the relief of these little squares running down the neck are obviously much stronger and more crisp. The part section itself is also more rounded than it is on the kit, and these component sections right here, these whatever these are on the kit, on the resin part, which are on the studio model, just don't really exist in that detail on the AMT kit right here where my thumb's at. So overall, and now let's turn it over, take a look at the back part, which on the AMT kit, this neck is made up of 3 parts. It's made up of these 2 plastic parts plus this sectional part, which goes right here. Now this is from my original kit, and it's already been primed. So let me put this in place here so we can see basically what we're looking at between the 2 of them. And get that in shadow a little more. The detail is much more crisper on the resin part. It's also more pronounced on the resin part than it is on the injected molded part. And we can see when we get back here toward the back, this is the close-up where it meets the back bulkhead on the resin piece, and then over here on the kit part. Most of the details are there. They are, however, in my opinion, more crisp and clear on the resin part than they are on the AMT part. Now there is a piece of flash right here that needs to be removed on the resin part. As I said, these are right out of the bag. I have not sanded them down at all. The other thing about the JT Graphics resin part is something I haven't seen on a lot of resin parts is this thing is almost completely free of any bubbles, which is amazing to me, because usually when you buy resin parts you have to do a lot of cleanup, and I usually expect to see more flash, but this is incredibly clean. Also, the JT Graphics part has a tube running down the middle of it. It adds strength to the neck, but it allows you to take wiring through to the bulb if you want to light the model. Now, the one thing that you can't do with the JT Graphics part that you can do with the AMT part, obviously, is light the red navigational strobe location on top of the pyramid, which is right here on both sections. There's no way to do this on the resin part. There's no way to get to it. It comes all together as one. As I was saying, in terms of lighting that, there's really no way to get into that. You'd have to trench the resin piece and really tear it all up and have to restore the detail, which is, why would you do that? It's just too much. This resin piece is, as I was saying, is just apparently free of almost all defects. It's really a beautiful piece. No bubbles on this particular piece. In fact, my quick look over of all the pieces, they appear to be pretty much absolutely perfect and some of the most beautiful resin castings I've ever seen. But because of the lighting issue, you can go in with the AMT kit, as I've done here, and it's taped over at the moment. I was doing some light blocking and some reducing of the size of the emitting section on my 3mm LED to get it down into scale, but you can go ahead and drill that out and put an LED there, for a red LED for your nav lights on the AMT piece. Okay, this is the JT Graphics back bulkhead piece where the neck gets mounted, and they have an additional little cutout here for the brass pipe, the brass tube that they have through the neck. And I'll go ahead and bring this up here and we'll compare it to the AMT kit piece, which I've already got the windows drilled and the fiber out. They are very close. There is some more detail on the JT Graphics piece down here at this level underneath, but for the most part the AMT kit piece is actually pretty good in terms of most of the detail. Because I've already got this all drilled out and everything, I'm going to continue to use the AMT on my Takinga build, and I'm going to save this for the Quona Swan build, which I'm going to make with the second kit. I'm also going to do that with the neck piece. I'm going to save it for the Quona Swan build, which will have all the more detail, and I'm going to do all that photo etch that was all over that that piece. So the next one that we'll be looking at will be the manifolds, which are these pieces right here, and these are the kit pieces. So let me take those out, be right back. Next is the manifolds, and in the little brochure that JT Graphics provides, they go back through the items of using CA and cleaning the parts and priming and what to do if they're slightly warped on heating them. And then they give you the instructions on what you have to do. To install these resin parts on the AMT kit, you will have to remove these little protrusions on the shuttle bay section, and on the back of the shuttle bay part from AMT, you'll also have to cut off these side sections on the part if you're going to use this. In my case, I also have the part from JT Graphics, the resin part that replaces the shuttle bay. So as you can see on the back of the resin parts, that section is already included on the back. That detail is already included on there, which obviously it's not on the back of the AMT parts. But getting up and looking at them, you can see that some of the major differences in terms of the detail is the inclusion of this piece on the JT Graphics part right here. There's also added detail in this area that is just not on the AMT part. And let's take a look at the top section of these parts side by side. Let me put them right up against each other, and you can see there's quite a bit of detail differences on the parts. Now, I'm not going to go over both of them, but the left and right versions are the same, just in reverse for those. It's a solid piece of resin. Again, the castings on both of these is really good in terms of lack of imperfections such as bubbles. There's a little bit of sanding that needs to be done, but very little on these parts. They are outstanding, and I think a good deal in relation to getting the added detail. You know, if you're interested in doing more than just a standard kit build and you want something that looks more like the studio model, these resin parts from JT Graphics are some of the best I've ever seen and are an excellent option. So let's take a look at something else. We'll move on now to the next item. Shuttle bay and disruptor parts. These two parts right here, which are the disruptors that come in this particular kit, are not even modeled on the AMT hull next to the manifolds of the engineering hull where these go, and I'll show you where these go in just a moment. But first, let's slide those off and take a look at the bridge part. And I'll bring in the AMT part. Now then, if you choose to buy just this part, it comes with the side pieces just like the AMT kit part does, and you will have to remove those to install the manifolds, where this same detail here on the side is actually molded onto the back of the resin parts for the manifolds. But this is the detail of the bridge kit, the resin part for the shuttle bay, which is very highly detailed, and this is the same part from the kit. Now, it's very close. There are a lot of similarities to the two of them, but there's also added detail, especially in these sections right in here, on the resin part that just does not exist on the kit part where it's completely flat. So that's those. This is a very clean part. Now I must also point out, when you're installing the manifold, you have to cut off those little wing sections, and you have to cut back the kit plastic on the back of the shuttle bay, because on the AMT kit this is at 90 degrees on the to the shuttle bay. On the resin part and on the actual studio model, you can see this section down here actually angles back on the resin part, just like it does on the studio model. So you do have to make an adjustment on the shuttle bay AMT resin kit section, cutting some of that off to get this part to fit. But the accuracy here to the studio model is that this section down here is actually angled backwards, and there's some more added detail. The other item is the little disruptors, which you can see here. They're very tiny resin pieces. They're very nicely detailed for their size. I mean, they're just incredibly small. And let me get the kit part and show you where those go. These very tiny little parts on the studio model are about somewhere right in this area on the studio model, and I'll show a picture of the actual studio model that shows those. And as you can see, they're not even, there's nothing on the actual kit part at all that even shows the disruptors. They were chosen, whoever designed the kit chose to leave them completely off because they're not there at all. So these are nice little add-on parts that help add a lot of detail to your kit. And given the size of these parts, for them to be completely free of any bubbles or anything is really cool. Whoever cast these, whoever JT Graphics uses to cast these, does a wonderful job on all their parts. So far I've found no issues with any of the parts so far. So let's go ahead and move on from there, and let's look at the disruptors that go underneath the engineering hull, which is another item which doesn't even exist on the AMT kit. Okay, the next is those disruptors. And here they are right here. This is what you get in the kit. You get the two disruptor parts, very detailed. I was comparing these to those of the studio model in the photos that I have, and they seem to be very accurate. You also get two pieces of brass rod that you have to bend and put in place. These are very nice parts, very clean, and these parts right here go on the underside of the engineering hull, and they go up in place, I believe right about right here on one side, and the other one on the obviously on the opposite side. You see over here, and then the little brass rods bend on this section and come down, as you can see in the diagram from JT Graphics. Those are very nice details, and as you can see, they do add to the underside of the kit in an area that, other than the hull plating, is pretty much void of anything else. And it's nice to have those pieces that match up to the studio model. Those look really good, and I can't wait to add those onto this kit as well. Okay, now let's take a look at some of the most important parts. If you're going to do the Katinga that you may, and you're going to light it, two parts that are, you know, almost pretty much critical to get. Okay, next is the bridge, well, actually the onion bulb section. Because this is a brand new part, it's listed on JT Graphics website. I don't know if I don't think they've got the, either they put the wrong brochure or they haven't got the correct brochure in the kit with this one. Because this is actually the bridge paperwork, but it came in its package, it came with the bulb. And these are cast in clear resin. They are exceptionally well done. For clear resin, normally you would be seeing bubbles and things in the resin. These are very well done. In fact, I haven't been able to find one bubble of any major consequence in these castings at all. And to compare these, it's going to be difficult because I haven't sprayed these with a primer, but this is the kit part, which is lacking all the detail here at the front. On the studio model, there's a decal that you put here for some of this detail, but this is in relief is lacking it. These, if I can get some lighting just right to show you, I think I've got, you can see that detail right there on the front of that section, which is completely missing on the AMT kit, which is here. Let me put this together with its matching pair. Hold on just a moment. Well, there it is, just quickly put together. And let me see if I can hold it where you can see some of the detail on the part, especially here on the front, which is non-existent on the AMT kit, as I said. I am a little concerned about that seam right down the middle on the front. I've never worked with a clear part in anything near this type of shape, so I'm a little concerned about getting that worked out and nice and smooth without damaging the detail work here. So that's the number one thing I'm going to be dealing with for this. But if you're going to light this kit, you obviously can use the regular kit part and drill out the windows, as I did right here. Or you can paint this and mark them and scratch off. Well, not really, because unfortunately the one thing that I don't like about this particular resin piece is that the windows are not molded onto this. And I don't know if there's a difference between the studio model for the motion picture in relation to window placement on the bulb. Perhaps they changed that for Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. So thereby they chose not to mold those on here because of differences, but you can still go in and lay them out, mark them, and drill them out on this piece, or I suppose you can mark them and figure out how to scratch them off, scratch the paint off. So this piece is really nice in relation to the additional relief that's on here that's not on the AMT kit, but it's not as critical a piece in terms of lighting as the bridge module, which I'm going to show you next. Okay, now onto the bridge module, which to me ultimately is what started me off on dealing with getting some resin parts, because the bridge module on the actual kit, which is this top piece right here, which I have the bottom section taped to, is the most, well, it's not that it's a bad part, but in terms of detail, it's really so inaccurate, and it's at the top of the model. It's the one section that everyone really looks up close to, and on this kit it is just absolutely free of all detail. The dome here in the bridge dome is just absolutely free of having any of the detail that's on the studio model, and that's a real shame. And I think that AMT could have went in and added detail to this. It'd be nice if round 2, when they reissued this kit, would go in and at least add detail back on the dome module, and or provide the dome module and this undersection here in clear parts so that you could go in and light these much better. But that being said, JT Graphics provide an outstanding solution for this problem, and here is their bridge module for the Takinga, and you can see the huge amount of added detail onto the surface is rather tremendous compared to the AMT piece. And hopefully this camera is focusing well so that you can see all the detail. Let me hold it up here a little bit better. It's up here on the bridge module. You see the detail on top and the lines coming down. There's the windows on the bridge itself, and all the little bumps and lines and ridges on this larger dome, as well as a much accurate hull plating and detail here on the bottom section surrounding the two domes. It is an excellent piece, and this is absolutely free of any bubbles, hardly any flash. This kit piece is excellent. It is hollowed out on the underside nicely, so you can get lights up in there. And if you wanted to get a light up in here for red. It's going to be very easy to do, so you can light those windows red just like in Star Trek the Motion Picture. Excellent part. Now for that they also produce this piece, which is opaque, and this detail part matches the changes to the model for Star Trek 6. And basically what you do is you go in on this piece down to the lines where the windows is at, and you basically cut the top of that off and sand it down, and you glue this piece on top, and that allows the bridge module to look exactly like it did in Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. And here you can see they have wonderful instructions on how to go about doing this. They mark out the lines where you go to cut it and show you how it should look and the installation of the added piece onto that, so when you're done it turns out looking like this. So obviously I'm going to be ordering another one of these kits when I get around to doing my Cronus 1 bridge whole model for this, all decked out with all the photo etch and everything, so that I have a Klingon battle cruiser that matches the studio model in Star Trek 6. The other part is this section, which matches to the studio model very nicely. And let me take off the bridge module from the AMT part, and I'll show you, compare those side by side so you can see what those look like. And here we have them right here, side by side. And this is the underside of the part. And now let me flip it over so we can get up here. This is the detail in the back section on the AMT kit part, and this is the detail on the clear resin JT Graphics part. Very nicely done. What's great about this is on the AMT kit, the windows that need to be lit up here on the front would not be terribly difficult to do, but lining them up and the details are completely wrong compared to that on the resin part, which are molded correctly. So when you take this and combine it with the bridge section, so you see that is very much different than that of the AMT kit. And all the little window sections are molded on there. It's going to make it real easy to go in and paint this and scrape off the paint well, not real easy, but you can scrape off the paint very delicate work and very carefully, and you can have all those windows on the front of this. So that obviously is a big boon, and of all the parts that are available that I got today, this, to me, the bridge module part, is the most important for lighting of the kit and for detail work. Okay, the last thing I have is the new photo etch part from JT Graphics for the engine exhaust, the impulse engine area. So let me open this up and we'll take a look at that. Okay, now here's what you get in the kit package. You get a set of instructions that tells you all about photo etch and how to work with the parts if you've never used those. It shows you about the decal placement. There's some decals that come in the part, and the actual photo etch part, and where they go on the back impulse ports on the back bulkhead on the model. And besides the little information card, here's what you get in the kit. Now this kit currently is selling for $8. That's what I got it from JT Graphics for. You get these two decals in red and orange and blue and white for the impulse engine ports, and then you get this section of photo etch right here, which has some very good detail, which certainly the kit part does not have. Now I'm going to be lighting my kit parts, so it's important to me to have some detail back here. I've removed the plastic on the back of these impulse ports and the photon emitter, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these with dental acrylic. That's the plan, and I'm going to put these beautiful little grills over those ports. According to the instructions, you can either cut these grill sections out for this side, or you fold this over on the opposite side and you install those in. So that's it. This is a great part to add detail. Highly recommend it. Thanks everyone for watching, and happy modeling.